I'm gonna get back to that story, Sonny. Just, just you listen to Boomer, great one. He's gonna tell you about how it was back in the olden days, back before fire, back when we walked uphill for everything. In fact, we didn't even have a concept of downhill because there was no downhill. Everything was uphill. We thought that was normal. We didn't even have a word for it because there was no alternative. It was uphill all the time. You just need to reach down and grab yourselves by your bootstraps and pull yourselves up, Sonny. Because when I was your age, I bought a house for $25,000. And I made that money on my paper route and bussing tables at the local cafe. And if I can do it, you can do it too. You just need to reach down and pull yourself up and just buckle up there, buckaroo. God, I hate boomers.
You ever want to bang one of your like hot babysitters, right? Like you were about that age, but you weren't reliable to be around the house by yourself for 3 hours. So you got a babysitter, but she was like 15 or 16 and you were 12 and you're like, damn, that's hot. Just being honest, like me, you probably have this lament, right? You have this regret. I didn't bang the hot baby. Not at the age. I'm not saying when you were 12. I'm saying you grew up and you ran into her late. You know, you'd be like 24 and she was 20. Like, oh my God, you babysat. Oh God. Hey, how you doing? That kind of thing. So there's some victories in life like that where you wish you could have done them when you were younger, but didn't have the opportunity, and now you do. And one of those victories I have, no joke, the real victory is that I finally had the time to sit down and watch the Venture Brothers all the way through. It was a series starting around 2003, 2004. And those were in the dark times because Cappy, well, I didn't have money and I was struggling to get by and just didn't have the time, and I never had cable. That to this day, I've never had cable, never had a subscription service, and you don't need one either. But I think it was at my girlfriend's place at the time. I would catch episodes of the Venture Brothers, and it was good. It was hilarious. It was funny. And then just life got in the way and had to go teach and had to go do this and had to write book, drive the motorcycle. These are things I had to do. And kind of grew up, not like maturity wise, but career wise. Oh shit, we got a lot of stuff to do. This year I said, we've achieved cruising speed. We've achieved cruising altitude. A very rough taking off. A lot of what they call it, not vitriol, turbulence. A lot of turbulence. Got up, accelerated. Bam, there we are. Perfect cruising speed, perfect cruising altitude. Should be smooth sailing until I'm dead. And I told myself 2025, I'm going to start doing more fun things. And one thing I want to do, like fuck my hot babysitter, is I wanted to finish the Venture Brothers DVD. And I didn't know which episodes I saw, which ones I didn't, where I was in the series. I didn't even know the chronology of it. They're kind of standalone episodes. It really isn't an arc much of anything. And I finally had the time. And then a guy down in Brazil wanted to pay me to review it. And then I said, well, I'm going to watch it anyway. And I don't know, like $50. And then by the time he responded, the Brazilian, that's not the lira. What is it? The Brazilian real tanked. And he's like, I can't afford it anymore. Our currency went to shit against the dollar. I said, all right, well, you know, I understand poor people. I understand countries where their favorite pastime is soccer, aka poverty ball. That's a Chris Beckloff one. So I watched it and I finished it last night. And so now I'm going to review it. And up until I had watched it in its entirety, if you asked me what's your favorite cartoon, I probably would have said Venture Brothers. It was really good. It was really clever. But that is only because I had watched what was up to season 4, as best I can recall. What I'm pretty sure they did is they just kept putting the good seasons on replay because it's 7 seasons, and seasons 5, 6, and 7, they don't go to pot, but they're real jarring. They're real jarring. And so it is no longer my favorite cartoon. That now is Black Dynamite, which I've also not seen all the episodes of, so I might change my mind there. With a close second now being Archer, which I have seen the entire season. Well, let me explain Venture Brothers, and maybe you want to go watch it here. So all it is a spoof of the old TV cartoon called Johnny Quest, except it's as if Johnny Quest had grown up to the modern day. He had taken his dad's multi-adjusted for inflation billion-dollar science industrial magnet corporation that he built. And what if this Johnny Quest modern day version called Dr. Venture was just a loser? Like, he was nowhere near as great as the founder of the venture industries, the venture compound. He'll never measure up to his dad. He's a snively little weak nerd. He's ultimately selfish. He's not a bad guy, but he ain't his old man. And he has 2 sons, Hank and Dean, and they kind of supplement the role of Johnny Quest, where they're Johnny Quest. And they're idiots. They're naive. They're brought up on the compound, and they don't go to school. They get they're in sleeping chambers where they are given all the information they need to become super scientists. Like, the dad's just convinced they're going to be super scientists. So these kids have no street smarts, no awareness of the real world. And they're all like, gee willikers, howdy. Oh my gosh, we're going on an adventure. Oh, it's a mystery. And they kind of poke fun at all those 70s cartoons. There's some Scooby-Doo poking of fun. They even have one where there's like a Scooby-Doo team. You know, it is Scooby-Doo, but they're all strung out drug addict, like 50-year-olds. It's a lot of what if we fast forward what was going on in the 70s to today. It's very clever. And where they're ostensibly the name of the show, the Venture Brothers, there's a whole bunch of other shit going around them. And so the main premise, if there is one, to this show is that, like Johnny Quest, there were villains. There were arch nemesis or nemesis to Dr. Quest. And there are also arch rivals and enemies and nemesis of Dr. Venture, but you're not allowed to kill them. And they never go through why, but there's this whole group, this entire organization called the Guild of Calamitous Intent. And it's just a bunch of arch villains who got to go and hench. They got to go and arch on their good guy, right? So there's the Guild of Calamitous Intent, and then there's all these good guys or heroes or good doctors, super science geniuses, super scientists. And it's just a given that if you're a super scientist or a hero, you got an arch nemesis and they arch on you. They hench on you. And the main rival of the many people, the arch Dr. Venture, it's the Monarch. And he's dressed like a monarch butterfly. And he flies in a massive cocoon. And he has his henchmen. And they're all dressed like butterflies. And he never really gets around to killing Dr. Venture. Surprise. But the clever play that the writers did between the villains and the good guys and the arching and the henchmen is brilliant. It's just brilliant. The Guild of Calamitous Intent regulates all the arch rivals and the nemesis. I said, well, there's rules. You can't violate the guild rules. Hang on, what are you doing? They even got like a code book where, like, hey, you're in violation of of code 126 subsection B. You can't do that. You gotta wait 48 hours. You can't take their kids. That violates the rule. So they'll like, oh, all right, call off the henching. And then they go back to their fortress. And among all this case, so there's like an external threat all the time. Oh, there you gotta worry about the Dean and Hank getting kidnapped. You gotta worry about an attack coming in for Dr. Venture. Oh, you gotta worry about invasion and subterfuge. So they have a bodyguard called Brock, and Brock is the only sane person in this entire show. And I would have to say, kind of like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The story isn't about the Venture brothers or Dr. Venture. It's about two people. It's about Brock Samson and the Monarch. Because the Monarch, he's relatively sane. He just wants to hench on Dr. Venture. And Brock is just the only normal guy out there. He's voiced by Patrick Warburton. And he has to protect the kids and the family from all the bullshit that happens. Later on in the, I think by season 2, Hank and Dean get killed, but you find out that Dr. Venture has been cloning them all along, and he backs up their memories in the beds that they sleep in every night so he could just repopulate a clone. And they're, they're talking about the kids die, and Brock and Dr. Venture like, oh man, do you remember number 12? We had to reject. Oh, they died on this and they died on that. Oh, those are good times. So his kids never can die. He always brings them back. And it's just dark. It's hilarious and dark. See, I don't know what ended up happening, but everything was going well. You could have ran with this for a while. And all of a sudden, about season 5, I don't know if they started doing speed or cocaine or what, but there was way too much going on. Not enough stuff being filled in so you could follow the plot. And then I think they just tried to do way too much with way too many characters that you had no idea what was going on. And whereas I'm okay for having a vignette or a standalone episode or several, inevitably you'd like to have it move towards something. And they did. They had lots of subplots and arcs going on, but they never completed them or finished them. I mean, some they did, but you're like, well, where's that one going? Why don't you fill out that one? Why don't you flush that one out? And then about, I think it's season 6, they go from the Venture compound, which gets destroyed, and they go to a New York Venture compound that Dr. Venture's twin test tube baby brother had built a multi-billion-dollar empire out of, also under the Dr. Venture name. And I think that's where they lost it, is when this brother of Dr. Venture just died. Like, he's just gone. You didn't know how he died. You didn't know where he just left the Dr. Venture and Hank and Dean group, his New York estate, and that threw it all off. Now you're in New York. You're not off in some far-flung mountainous campus where the original Venture compound was. They had to move everyone to New York City, to including your characters and your enemies, and their entire stories got changed up. They tried to change some characters from being arch villains to heroes. It was clever where everyone is somebody's brother. Like, no, it got a little dark with like the talking beheaded heads and the cyborg. That was a little off. And it just didn't have that punch and the funniness in the last 3 seasons. And you had no idea what was going. It was really hard to follow. The drawing was still good. The quality was still there. In other words, they had too much material. It's like, look, you could spread this out, fill it in a little bit. So I don't know if they were under threat, like say, hey, you only got 1 season left, so they had to finish it. They had to show, oh, this is really funny. Look how good we are. Look how good we are. They were trying too hard, putting too much in, and then I would say it became unwatchable, but you're kind of you're rewinding, like, what's going on again now? And I was sad because it could have kept going real well. You probably could have had 9 seasons out of it with the material they had. You just had to finish and continue on some of these plots and subplots, conclude a couple things, and that would have been great. My favorite character is Dr. Orpheus because he's so dramatic. You meet him in the first season. He's good. Dr. Adventure. You got to see it. But yeah, and would I watch it? Absolutely. If you don't have a lot of time, seasons 1 through 4, phenomenal, spectacular. 5, 6, 7, sure. Just don't try to think about it too much. And yeah, and then they just ended abruptly. I think they didn't get financing or funding. And then season 7, that was it. You can always hope they bring it back. I don't think the band's going to come back together. You could tell some of the artists changed from the original seasons to the newer ones. Are kind of like that don't look like Barack. But otherwise, yeah, it's definitely worth your time. I bought the entire DVD set because I'd probably watch it later on down the road. And that was it. That's it. Got any super chats? We got 2 super chats. Drew, $2. Trump fired all federal DEI workers. I know, isn't it great? It is great. I dare don't start watching the news again because am I gonna get hope? I love that he's just bum rushing them. He's like, nope, total offensive. He's gonna put the Democrats on the back of they're gonna be on the ropes. He's gonna flood them with a bunch of shit. I'm sure they're gonna file a bunch of lawsuits to try and stop it. But I love how he's just like, nope, we're doing this. Fuck you. That's what happens when you try to kill a president. That's what happens. Paul Navarre, $5. What do you think about Trump pardoning Ross Ulbricht? Is that the Silk Road guy? If that is, and even if it wasn't, I don't know who Ross Ulbricht is. In either case, I don't know enough about the guy or anything like that to speak competently about it. I really don't know it. I wouldn't be able to say. If he committed crimes, he shouldn't have been pardoned. But if he was, well, look at Trump. Wasn't he brought up on charges in New York? That was a bunch of bullshit. I could see him saying, "Yep, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit." I'll trust his pardonings before I trust what's his name, Joe Biden, nepotist Biden, pardoning his son. And by the way, fuck you, Democrats. You might be a good person, but your party is fucking horrible. Fucking horrible. All right, that's it. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.